There is a dangerous idea that many people have in the war against fascism, that they, through good conversation and being nice, can de-radicalize people. But to understand why this doesn't work also requires you to understand what the road to radicalization looks like, and how many steps down the path you have to be to show up at a far-right rally. If you can imagine with me, how much it would take to get me or you to get up, leave our house, and go to a political rally for an issue that we didn't really care about already. How much time and how deeply down the path of learning about that issue and being around that content and that community it would take for me to go and show up, or you to go and show up at a rally. All right, so hold that in your head. And then imagine if when we show up at that rally, we see a bunch of far-right dudes, like tatted up neo-Nazis, and then we decide not to leave. Think about how many steps, how much time, how much information you've absorbed in that environment to become that motivated to not only get out of your house, get off the digital spectrum, go into the physical world, attend a far-right rally, see far-right people there, and not leave. Those are many, many steps. That isn't a trick. That isn't someone being deceived. That is someone being slowly, politically socialized into far-right views and ideas. And by the time they're already out there showing up in person, that person is far down the path already. Now imagine that same kind of person talking with some random leftist or content creator or whoever at that rally. Someone who we have agreed is already down the road to radicalization to a significant degree. Do you think a single conversation or a clever idea or just putting ideas in front of them will truly make them break out of that political group? Because it's not just about ideas, it's also about community. They are part of a wider far-right community. And some of these subcultures are incredibly violent, and there is deep danger, not just of alienation, but of actual physical reprisal that people have for leaving the movement, depending on how dangerous the group they've got entangled with is. Which brings us back to the literature and what that says about de-radicalization. Usually when people talk to me about this, I tell them, well, you better buckle up for several years of working on one person to de-radicalize them, because it is not just a matter of getting them out of that community and ideology. It's also making sure that they self-actualize and develop new ideas and new habits so they don't slink back into some other addiction or some other extremist group to fill the void that is now there because they're no longer part of the far-right movement. And what is really, really important to understand is mass de-radicalization was tried in the past by much bigger organizations than you or I, or most NGOs, or even governments. Literally, the US Army and the Soviet military gave up effectively on denazification within a couple of years after World War II because they realized it was incredibly hard to get people out of an ideology. What they realized was much easier was by deleting leaders of that movement and prohibiting them from high political office. And even that was a major failure, as a bunch of the ministries until the 70s and 80s had huge percentages of Yahtzee party members still in the ministry. This is why experts push back so hard on people who try to present the idea that de-radicalization is easy, or it is merely as simple as being nicer to far-right people. Further, this kind of logic is easily manipulated by far-right actors who prey upon the sympathy of liberals and leftists in a very fundamental belief of theirs that people can change and people can be good. And while people can change and they can be good, changing their minds is very hard, and ultimately they have to be the one to initiate the change. You can't force it onto them. We also have to understand, just because people say that their concerns feel real to them and they're legitimate does not actually make them real or true. Yes, their feelings are legitimate because they're their feelings and that is literally how they feel, but it can be based based in fantasy and non-fact. It can be based in far-right myths, and we should never be indulging any of those. They are illegitimate claims because they're based on falsehood. Further, we should not be scared to use extreme shaming to make people stop being out there and showing themselves openly as far-right. One of the main goals of the post-World War II period was making it very socially unacceptable to be a public Nazi. And every day across the entire internet, we're seeing the major problem when that loses its stigma. Finally, as an election strategy and a political strategy for converting people to your ideology, trying to convert already converted people is the hardest thing you can possibly do. Do what the far right has been doing. Find people who are undecided, who do not have fully formed political views, and give them your ideas. Pitch to them, present to them, and teach them about the stuff that you want them to believe in, instead of trying to convert the already converted to your different views, because that will be the longest and hardest path you will have. Because every far-right election victory lately has come at far-right people being able to activate non-voters into voters. So the wheel has already been built. Use it. De-radicalization isn't a game. It is not something easy. It is very, very hard. And do not let the far-right prey on your empathy and sympathy in garnering more support for their legitimate concerns. Because this is a game they're playing, and if we are playing along with them, we're losing.